Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It is now September, August has come and gone, which means it's finally time to take a look back at my results for the month. Quick little disclaimer for those of you new to the channel, I like to look back on my account at the end of each and every month to track my trades and see what kind of income I was able to pull in. If you didn't already know from the thumbnail, I am an option seller, mainly on the short put side of things, which makes me generally bullish on the overall market. But unlike most of the other options traders you're going to see out there on YouTube, I'm not trying to find the next hot stock. I'm not looking for the next GameStop, AMC, or Tesla. I'm more like an insurance salesman. Now that's a bit of an oversimplification, but for those people out there wanting to protect their stock positions if the market goes down, they're looking to buy puts on their stock, or you could think of it like insurance on their stock. And I'm more than happy to be on the other side of that trade, writing that insurance for them. Now, the main risk with this type of trade is I am agreeing to buy the stock at that set price or that strike price, no matter where the stock ends up going, for a certain amount of time. Quick little example, let's say you hold 100 shares of Apple and it's currently trading for $150 a share. You're a bit worried that Apple could see a correction in the next month and you want to buy a hedge. So what you do is you go out there and you buy a $145 strike put expiring at the end of the month, 30 days out from today. Now, insurance is never free. That put or insurance is going to end up costing you about $200 in premium. But what you get for that is for the next 30 days, you've got the right to sell your shares of Apple at $145 a share no matter where Apple ends up going. Apple tanks, it goes down to $50 a share. Well, hey, guess what? You've still got the right to sell it at $145. Now, the only reason you would take advantage of this insurance is if Apple actually ends up going to or below $145. In which case, you would either exercise the contract and sell your shares at that $145 strike price, or you would just outright sell the contract and then decide what you want to do with the shares. Now remember, that's you buying the insurance on your Apple stock, but someone has to take the other side. And that's me. I'm writing that put or selling that put to you. That means the risk for me is I may end up having to buy those 100 shares of Apple from you at $145 within the next 30 days. However, either way, that $200 you paid me is mine no matter what happens, as long as I hold the option till expiration. The only unknown for me is whether or not I'm going to have to also buy 100 shares of Apple by the end of the month. Now, some option sellers out there actually do this strategy to get the stock. Think of it like setting a limit order that you got paid to put on. Maybe you really wanted to get shares of Apple at $145. Well, you could sell a $145 put, goes down. Well, you're going to be the proud owner of 100 shares of Apple at $145. Me, on the other hand, I never actually want to own the underlying stock. I'm just trying to collect as much premium as I possibly can every single month and hopefully someday make enough money to live off of it. Or make enough money making YouTube videos talking about making money off of it. Now that's the real genius level play. Now this was all a bit of an oversimplification of the whole process, but that's the gist of it. Now that we got that out of the way, let's go ahead and take a look at my trades for the month of August. Right off the bat, you can see I sold one of the Activision 77.5 puts on August 2nd, and I closed it out 18 days later for a total profit of $89.46. That was a small one, but the next one up was probably one of my worst trades ever in this account. That would be on Alibaba. You can see that I sold the $200 puts on July 28th and closed it out on August 6th for a total profit of $561.94. I then also sold the 197.5 puts on August 6th and rolled those out to the 195 strike on August 13th for a total loss of $636.06. Now, taking into consideration the gain, that comes out to a total loss for the month on Alibaba of $74.12. Now, looking at that, you might be thinking, man, that was his worst trade ever in the account, $74 loss, this guy must be amazing. But that's not really what I'm looking at. When I said before that I closed those put options on Alibaba, that's not really true. I actually ended up rolling them out a month. And on one of them, I wasn't even paying attention, I got assigned, which meant I had to buy those 100 shares of Alibaba at that strike price, which I agreed to, which was $200 a share. So my current position, I've got one short 195 put against Alibaba, and I've got 100 shares. Now, I'm not sure if you guys have looked at a chart of Alibaba recently, but it's down in the low 170-ish range, and that's even with a nice comeback over the past few days. So as of the making of this video, I'm down about $3,300 on Alibaba as a whole. And for me, that's a pretty big number. I don't like to see a whole lot of red in my account. But I am very comfortable holding these shares as long as I need to. I think Alibaba has seen some crazy sell-side pressure recently, and really for good reason. There's a lot of fear out there of what could happen next to the company. What if the Chinese government delists them or regulates them to oblivion? But I'd say the potential upside is far greater than any downside on this one. So I'm going to continue to roll out this short put I've got on Alibaba, hold these shares as long as I need to, but I am still hoping we see a nice little rebound in Alibaba stock in the near future. Now, moving off my biggest loser in the account, let's go ahead and take a look at Chewy, which if you didn't know is kind of like the Amazon of pet supplies. I sold 2 of the $74 puts on July 27th and closed them both out on August 4th for a total profit of $151.87. Next up, you can also see I sold a bunch of puts against Coinbase. They only just recently IPO'd and have seen some pretty insane volatility since going public. This has really inflated the premiums, making it very attractive to me. Also, for a while there, they were also trading at pretty oversold levels, at least compared to how much money they're making on a consistent basis. Now, to be fair, they don't have much of a track record in terms of their revenue. I think they've only got 2 quarters reported so far. But going off that, they've been pretty steadily growing their revenue, and if they keep this up, we could see a considerable rise in the underlying stock. Now, throughout August, you can see I sold the 210s, 215s, 2 of the 202.5s, 2 more of the 215s, and 2 of the 205s, and closed them all out for a total profit of $746.52. Not too bad if I don't say so myself. And next up we had Corsair, another loser in the account. You can see I sold 3 of the Corsair 27.5 puts on July 16th, and I ended up rolling them out a month and keeping them on the same strike, and I did that on August 20th, about a month later. Now that was all done for a total realized loss of $242.19 for the month of August. I don't know if I made it clear, but I really emphasized realized losses for the month because technically I did roll those out in time. And I'm still planning on making some money on it. I plan on making all of that 242 loss back, plus an extra couple $100 in profit on this trade. And that's the beautiful thing with option selling. You have that opportunity to roll out, collect more premium, see what happens to the stock. But next up, you can see I did sell some more puts against Disney. I sold 3 of the Disney 155 puts and 3 of the 165 puts and closed them all out for a total profit of $559.62. I also had a very small trade against Discovery. I sold 1 of the 27.5 puts, closed out about a month and a half later for a total profit of $69.46. The next company up, which most people would consider a somewhat boring company, was eBay. I sold 3 of the $64 puts and 2 of the $65 puts on August 2nd and closed out about 10 days later for a total profit of $448.25. eBay is another company that I really like. I think people are kind of sleeping on it, looking at Amazon. Could be a good play, good company to look at going forward. Next up, I also sold 2 of the 72.5 and 2 of the $72 puts against the chip manufacturer Micron. I closed out half of those at the beginning of the month and the other half on the very last day of the month for a total profit of $277.75. The next one up was another chip manufacturer, Intel. I sold 2 of the $52 puts and 4 of the $52.5 puts and closed them out about 3 weeks later for a total profit of $679.59. Intel is definitely not one of those companies you hear mentioned by investors much in the news, or definitely not on YouTube, but despite that, I think it's a solid value play going forward. The upside on this company seems to outweigh any possible negative situations, and really I'm not too worried about AMD eating up enough of Intel's market share to have any significant impact on the price to keep it at such depressed levels. And honestly, I would love to continue selling options against it, but the volatility on this one is so incredibly low, it's really hard to squeeze much money out of the option premiums. I was only able to collect as much as I did in August because of earnings that month. And for those of you experienced with options trading, you know that going into earnings, volatility steadily starts to rise. Once earnings pass, that volatility is sucked out of those contracts, and I don't have much to work with at that point. Now, moving on from those value plays, you can see next up I had Palantir. I sold 5 puts in total on the $21 and $22 strikes and pulled in a total profit of $324.25. Next one up, you can see SoFi. I also sold 1 of the $17 puts and 5 of the $17.5 calls and 2 of the $18 calls against some shares I was signed the previous month. In total, this brought in $363.12 in income for the month. Now, to be fair, I do still have a pretty sizable unrealized loss on my SoFi shares that I'm still holding, but this has helped to soften the blow a little bit. To be fair, SoFi is pretty new. It's still considered one of those meme stocks. They don't have much of a track record to go off of, but I really believe in them for the long run, so I'm very comfortable holding these shares as long as need be. Now, the next one up is another frequent trade that you're going to see in my account all the time, and that was against Tesla. I sold a single 635 put back on August 11th and closed out on August 30th for a total profit of $505.94. In my past videos, Tesla has been such a huge portion of my income for each month, but I'm really trying to reduce that as much as I possibly can. I'd rather spread my money out amongst many different companies that I feel may be trading towards depressed values, and I wouldn't mind holding for the long term in the worst case scenario. Now, I still do like Tesla, but I don't know about risking more than $60K in my account for just one single trade, and that's what I'm doing with every put that I sell, basically. Remember, in the worst case scenario on these options trades is I'm agreeing to buy those shares at that price. I agreed to buy 100 shares of Tesla at $6.35, which would tie up 63 grand in my account. Now, spreading my money amongst many different companies, many different put options against those companies, this doesn't really do much for systemic risk in the event the whole market sells off. But at least I don't have all my eggs in the Elon Musk basket. That man can be a little wild sometimes, and I don't like my portfolio swinging because he goes on the Joe Rogan podcast. Next up, you can see that I did sell some options against Viacom. I sold at 38.5 and 3 of the $40 puts against Viacom and pulled in a total of $336.75 for the month. We're finally nearing the end of the list here. You can see I sold 4 of the Walgreens $46 puts and also a covered call against some shares that I was assigned the previous month. And I did all of that for a total profit of $184.70. And finally, last but not least, we had Wynn Casino. I sold an $85 put and 2 of the $88 puts against Wynn back on August 2nd and 10th and closed them all out for a total profit of $267.82. Now, if you were keeping track, you did the math, or just looked at the thumbnail, you can see that that comes out to a total of $6,384.59 in income for the month of August, which is a roughly 3.7% return on my capital. If you've watched some of my previous videos, you'll know that I typically aim for about 2 to 3.5% return on my money, usually towards the lower end of that target when volatility is as low as it is right now. When volatility starts to rise, that number is going to spike up. Now, for this month, it had a lot to do with the past rolls that I was finally able to take advantage of this month, finally take that profit off the table. As you can see, it wasn't any single trade that catapulted me up to that $6,300 in income. It was a lot of little trades that put me there. And I mentioned this before, but that's what really draws me into this type of strategy. It's a much more neutral, slower paced strategy, and it still brings in some pretty sizable returns every month. Plus, I mean, even in the worst case scenario, I'm just being forced to buy the stock at a lower price than it is currently, which is another reason I like to do this on stock I wouldn't mind holding for the long run. Now, that was a lot to go through, a little bit dry in some places, but if you guys stuck around till the end, thank you so much for watching. It really means a lot. If you guys did find this video helpful in some way or liked the video, please hit that like button and comment down below. It really helps me get more reach on this channel. If you guys do like this type of content, please let me know below in the comments. I'd really love to put more videos out like this and be more centered around option selling. I do have a playlist full of my past income reports, so be sure to check those out if you liked this one. And as always, if you guys have any questions at all for me, leave them down below in the comments. Let's all try to make some money this week, and I'll catch y'all in the next video.